Hello, my name is Allie Rogers, and I'm a human resource consultant based in Austin, Texas. As part of the Fort Worth HR Career Search Series, we're going to be discussing human resource information systems, or what is commonly referred to as HRIS. And today I'm going to be speaking with Casey Prater. Casey is an HRIS analyst at Aztec. Welcome, Casey. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. How and where did you get your professional start in HR systems?
Sure. So after I graduated college, I knew I wanted to go in HR, but I was trying to figure out a little bit more about where. I started at Dr. Pepper as a recruiting coordinator in an entry-level position there. I was working primarily with former agency recruiters who are now in-house recruiters for Dr. Pepper. Agency recruiters are trained to document their productivity, make sure that they're following up their candidates, that they're documenting their phone screens, how many interviews everyone's doing, how many hires they're getting out of all of their interviews, etc. They did not love being in the applicant tracking system, though. A lot of stuff they're usually doing manually. So one of the jobs that I kind of found myself doing was managing the applicant tracking system for the recruiters. I found that I was very comfortable in using that system. It was a good introduction into HR systems in general. I also had the opportunity to start making the system a little bit more user-friendly for the recruiters and taking the data that the recruiters had, transforming it into meaningful metrics for the recruiting team as well as for leadership for the company. After about a year of being a recruiting coordinator, starting to take on some of these side projects, I started doing metrics reporting formally. I also started taking some Lean Six Sigma classes that Dr. Pepper was offering. And soon, within about a year, I had my yellow belt in Lean Six Sigma. I was also promoted to recruiting analyst for the company. Well, Dr. Pepper eventually got bought out by Keurig. I ended up switching to TD Industries in the construction industry. I started there as a recruiting analyst as well, and I implemented iCIMS, the applicant tracking system for TD Industries. Once that was implemented, I was able to shift a little bit more over to the HRIS space within that company. And then after TD Industries, I am where I am now at Aztec for automotive technology. I am the HRIS analyst for that company, supporting the company and the HR team there as well.
Wow, you have a lot of experience. Thank you for sharing. What do you find most challenging about being in HR systems?
Sure. So HR systems, HRIS includes a lot of projects. That's really the most fun part of my job. With working on projects, though, does come change management. I get really excited when designing systems, when I'm implementing changes that positively impact the HR team and the company as a whole. But if you don't properly communicate what you're doing, if you don't get people on board and use proper change management, pretty much it makes everything null. All that work that you're putting into in the system. So taking time to design change management, the communication before, during, and after a project and a major change is extremely important. Humans are human, so not everyone is going to be immediately on board with my ideas or my projects or my initiatives. And so I do have to set aside time to think through what changes am I putting in place, who is impacted, who may or may not be supportive of that, and how do I work with those people who may not be supportive. So it's definitely the most challenging part is change management and making sure that the changes that I'm putting into place, the projects that I'm implementing, go smoothly.
Perfect. Well, how do you stay on top of trends and changes in the systems that you work with?
Sure. My job is essentially an IT/HR type job. It's a hybrid. That means that things change very quickly in both spaces, and it's very important for me to stay on top of what those changes are. I'm fortunate to be working for a company that's essentially an IT company for automotive services. So we have a lot of extremely smart people at our company. We have a phenomenal IT team. To stay on top of IT changes and updates in the IT industry in general, I try to stay very close to our IT team. I invite myself into meetings that they might be holding, especially if I feel like I don't have an impact on my job. Security, IT compliance, all of that is something that would impact our HRIS system. And so I need to be very on top of that. For the HR side, I try to attend any webinar that's available, especially if it is a webinar by the HRIS system that I'm using. I watch for announcements about government regulation, upcoming compliance, new laws being put in place. And then oftentimes there's going to be some kind of webinar around those changes. And if we're lucky, there's going to be some kind of conference. And as of 2020, everything is becoming so virtual that conferences are now virtual. And that means that I have been able to see more speakers, hear from more professionals in the HR industry, the HRIS field, than I would have if I had been going to conferences in person.
Perfect. And lastly, what advice would you give someone wanting to work in HR system about getting started?
Sure. So HRIS is the kind of career that I feel like most people really fall into. I don't know a lot of HRIS professionals who graduated high school or college knowing that it's what they would want to go into. HRIS is about system maintenance. It's about staying on top of processes, making sure that you're compliant, that your systems that you're working with are secure. When you don't know the answer to something, even something seemingly small, get the answer, especially when it involves around compliance and security. Even something that might seem not important in the future, if you don't know the answer, it's something that could potentially snowball when you get that answer, and you can investigate more from there about whatever the problem would be. You also heard me talk earlier a little bit about Lean Six Sigma, getting certifications in that. You don't necessarily have to have a formal certification in project management or lean management, but it's extremely helpful to start investigating that now. HRIS, yes, you can do system maintenance, you can read the manual, you can talk to your customer service for the HRIS systems that you're using, but you are going to be so much more valuable in the field if you understand more about project management, implementations, change management especially, and kind of starting to get your feet wet there can make you very, very valuable as somebody in HRIS.
Well, that's great advice. Thank you so much, Casey, for taking the time to speak with me today. I know the information you shared about HRIS is definitely going to be helpful for someone who's wanting to get started in that career field. Thank you again, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you. Bye.